All right, we just made over 200K in 48 days on one single offer that we built entirely from the ground up. All right, hold up, because that's actually not true. We actually did 202K in 45 days. Let me show you here real quickly. Here from May 10th to June 24th, so 45 days, we did 202K on WAP. I'll refresh here too. I don't want to leak the client, but I will refresh. Come back the exact same. All right, back to the video. But seriously, this is the most valuable thing. What I wish I knew when we started this whole challenge, like 45 days ago. I'm going to go through everything. I'm not going to hold anything back. It's all in timestamps too below. And then even more recently, we just did a little over 35K in 4 days from our latest webinar. And so because we started everything from zero with this offer specifically, we were tasked with building the offer, the messaging, the marketing, the sales process, the team, everything. But to be honest, this isn't the first time we scaled the high ticket offer. We've partnered with a few at this point. And now that we've gotten somewhat down to a science, I want to use this case study as an excuse to hand you the same playbook we run every single partner through at Sales Machines, so that by the end of this video, you run an offer stuck between or anywhere between 15 to 100K a month. You'll find this helpful. You'll have everything you need to know to solve your biggest bottleneck in your high ticket offer right now. And heads up, I'm not going to sacrifice any value for the sake of retention. So I've left timestamps below. You can kind of find what's most relevant to you. But I guess the first thing that's most important is what I call building your moat. And so no one really talks about this, but there's 4 places where you can build kind of this moat around your info business that allows you to get rid of all the think about it, all like kind of the comparison objections that you get when you have cold traffic where they're shopping around. These 4 places is where I look at first to find what is our not even unique mechanism, but what is our unique selling proposition around that offer, around the offer owner, around the actual business. And so it's 4 places I draw it from. Credibility is one. So like, are you someone who's more credible than anyone else in your niche? Can you say things, make certain claims that no one else can? Is your fulfillment or your guarantee better? So those kind of go hand in hand, but can you offer a guarantee that everyone else in your space is scared to? Is your fulfillment much better? In cold traffic, this is super, super important. Your personality, your personal brand, essentially, this is the longest it takes to build, but it is the most powerful, obviously, when you have like a top 1% personal brand. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about why even some big influencers have trouble selling info, and it's not really something they can pull off. And then the last one is a polarizing message. So are you saying something that is so contradictory and perceivably outlandish to the audience within that market that you just stand out and kind of build a moat around your business? So the cool thing is the more you can stack upon each of them, so the more you stack upon one another, the more your content will indoctrinate prospects. And so instead of making value or educational content that you kind of just do and then you get like no views on it and you're wondering why there's no book calls that come from it, every hour of content focused on one of these 4 is focused on like the actual indoctrination. And so there's people that you're huge fans of, you would buy whatever it is they're selling, but you're not necessarily sure the nitty gritty what they do. It's because they make content around one of these 4 things. And so the latter is what best brands have across the board. It's also why they can make money very easily. So for example, a Shelby Sapp, super huge on personality and brand. She also has somewhat of a polarizing message that you don't need to work so hard every single day and have this experience to make money online. She kind of tells girls that they can work 1 to 2 hours a day, choose their schedule, all these things that are like pretty polarizing in that niche. And then for us, for this client, we did not have a personal brand to lean on or an influx of YouTube or Instagram views. So personality was definitely out of the question. I think both the brand owners had like 1,000 followers on Instagram, and then they had a business account with like 4,000 followers to the actual company. But we stacked the 3 principles that we could. So we architected the shiniest guarantee we could deliver. So I'll get into this in a second, but guarantees aren't necessarily deliverables. They kind of pre-handle objections. But we have, with this offer, some of the best fulfillment that I've seen in that specific market. I don't want to expose their niche and stuff because I want to be respectful to them. But in their niche, they are partnered like as an agency, as a marketing agency, with the platform that they train creators on. And so we can have way shinier fulfillment, way more perceived likelihood of achievement in that niche for our audience than anyone else in our space. Like, so we have the gurus and coaches, and then we are an actual marketing agency with the platform that's partnered, and we get access to certain data and whatnot. So we architected the shiniest guarantee we could deliver. So that was one of our big boats, especially going into cold. Second thing is we leaned into our credibility. So it kind of goes hand in hand. We're a platform partnered agency, or the offer owners are, and so we were saying things and making claims that no one else that was competing with us can make, because we actually had the credibility that we actually basically authority anchored from someone who had way more authority. So in this cases, the platform obviously has mass authority in that niche, and because we can tie our offer to them, we just get more credibility, and we actually can build a moat around our claims that we're making within our creatives, within our content, all that kind of stuff. The third thing we did was we crafted a polarizing message that only we were credible to push. So this is kind of the trifecta. I like to do this every single time that we don't have this massive personal brand. We have a really shiny guarantee that handles our biggest objection, which we'll get into a little bit how that's crafted. We leaned into our specific credibility. We only work with clients that are basically top 1% in their niche, actually know what they're talking about. And so we come from a place that no one else can come from. Our claims are much more believable, the whole 9 yards. And the last one is we take those two and we craft a polarizing message that gets us mass attention in a short amount of time that only we are credible to make. So it plays into our guarantee and our unique mechanism as like paying a platform partnered agency. So anyways, going into examples of content. So most people make content based on like just value or educational stuff, but the problem with that is your commodity. You can just find that anywhere. Value-based content isn't necessarily going to make someone a diehard fan of you. That's just going to be something they save to their watch later. And just because you can give them information nowadays, ChatGPT can, Claude can, you're not really special. And so what do you make content around? So some examples of some value content in this niche, it's like top 10 scripts, the best video formats, these products make the most on this platform, what I wish I knew when I started. All these are traditionally what worked really well for info in the past, but it doesn't really work well now. And so our moat-focused content, so we take the 3 principles that we've taken from the buckets that we pulled out from. That's the framework we run every client through when building their moat. We made videos like why affiliates linked to an agency have an unfair advantage. The back-end data that XYZ platform hands agencies every single week. Why $500 days on this platform have nothing to do with scripts or formats. Why more solo affiliates on that platform are quitting every day. These are things that educate them to be more aware of why our credibility is so strong and important, and also why our guarantee and our messaging is actually valid. So we're just educating them on our unique mechanism in a way where they perceive it as educational. So that's kind of the first part. We look at their moat, like what can we do to kind of exaggerate the more unique parts of their business when it comes to those 4 buckets, how to make content around that. And the cool thing about moat-focused content is it's typically super contradictory in your niche. And so when you're making organic content, especially with this offer, we didn't really lean on that. We leaned on more like paid traffic. But when you're making organic content, we've taken brands from like pretty much like I think 8K a month to like 61K a month was like the recent most crazy win in a really short amount of time through just organic content, because we were able to take a couple unique insights that they had, that creator had, and then just make the most almost like clickbaity content. Not necessarily clickbaity, but I guess the better word for it would be like we made very exaggerated content that demanded views on organic. And so once we gave them this crazy wild statement that actually made sense once we broke it down for them, so much trust was built. Because when you make statements contradictory to the niche, people then associate that reason for why they haven't seen success. Because when you give someone a reason as to why what they've tried in the past hasn't worked, you become a lot more believable and trust to them, and you become trustworthy to them because you're giving them something else to blame whatever their shortcoming is on. So it's super powerful. But anyways, that's kind of how we focused and made our ad creatives. Everything content, whether it's paid or organic, now it's kind of a mix. You use organic strategies and paid, is all based around this, because this kind of content can get you a lot of shares and a lot of like engagement. You would think you're doing the right thing by posting it, but it does nothing. But all these pieces of content will brainwash them, educate them closer to why our specific unique advantage in the market was something that they should even care about. So anyways, going into marketing and offer, I'm including marketing and offer in the same pillar on purpose, because when you go cold, which is where every info business eventually leads, your marketing becomes your offer. And so if you sell cold like warm, you will burn ad spend. So if you sell someone who has no idea who you are, a stranger, as if you would organically, you will burn everything you spend in Meta, but vice versa, you get rich. And so what we've done a really good job of, and what we kind of pride ourselves at the agency of doing, is selling warm like cold. Like, how do we make the best actual principle-based offer for even the warmest of audiences so we can convert really well. So anyways, your offer structure starts with your core outcome. And so when I think about offer structure, I'm thinking about a core outcome that our ICP is looking to achieve. And when you think about that core outcome, you also have to evaluate the awareness level of the lead you're targeting. So just because it's B2C BizOp does not mean 10K a month is what should be in your header. It should not be something like I went from broke college student to this. Like that should not be in your headline, even though you may have seen it work with organic. There's a reason why that just completely breaks when you go to paid. The reason most people can't crack cold is because they're targeting people who are problem aware instead of solution aware, or even writing for problem aware when they're talking to solution aware. It's just a mismatch. And so, for example, if I'm selling a system behind making money as an affiliate on this platform, I don't want to target people who need convincing that the platform can make them money. So if I'm a platform partnered agency, if I have the data that no other affiliate has, and I'm talking about how solo affiliates can't necessarily make the same amount of money as someone linked with an agency, the people that's most effective on are people that are already convinced, already trying to make an income on TikTok Shop, and they need a reason what they've tried in the past hasn't worked. And so I only want to target people who are either struggling to do so or who already believe this platform can make them a lot of money, so replace their income. And so I can play with a lot of sunken cost fallacy in that. So when you talk to that ICP, you can talk about all the times they spent like getting off work and posting all this. You can do a lot of pain when it comes to copy. But when I talk about my core outcome, I'm not talking about making 10K a month in our headline with the new side hustle, like introducing them, because although the core outcome is the same, they want to replace their income so that they can leave their job. The way I structure and write my core outcome, if I'm not aware of the awareness levels, funny enough, then it just doesn't work, although it's the same destination. So in this example, I'm talking about how to hit consistent $500 days with the backend data that most solo affiliates don't know exist. That is so much more shiny, and it actually piques a lot more interest because I'm speaking to my awareness level, but also to my dream client. And so you might be getting the worst book calls, enrollments in whatever business you run, because you might be making the right content and the right sophistication level of content, but your sales assets, your VSL, your headline, whatever it is, your webinar, they all talk to very unsophisticated core outcomes. And even though it's the same, like we talked about, the way you write that has a lot to do with the people you bring in when it comes to lead quality. So anyways, the second part of how I offer or structure offers, your guarantee should pre-handle your most common objection. No one talks about this, but your guarantee, actually, believe it or not, is not there to just be something that it's the most reasonable thing that you can promise. Once I have my core outcome and offer statement, I also need a guarantee that pre-handles our biggest objection. And so the biggest fear of our ICP is getting scammed online by other programs just like ours, because they've probably, if they're struggling, especially if you're marketing info now, you should be going in market. We'll talk about that in a second. But you should be going in market. You should be talking to people who are already convinced. But odds are they've been burned before. They paid for a program they didn't like, etc., etc. And you have to understand what is the best promise you can make to that person that would pre-handle the objection. So because they're already convinced, they most likely tried other programs that sold them on the opportunity without anything in contract or writing to protect them as a customer. They've already been sold on the opportunity. They haven't been talked to by someone who can literally put their success in writing. So the bottom line is they've likely been burned before. So our guarantee in this offer was we guarantee your first 1K month retainer in 30 days, even if you haven't made your first sale yet. So regardless of whatever commissions you made in the past, regardless of your track record as an affiliate, we'll guarantee your first 1K month retainer because we're leveraging our credibility and we're leveraging our fulfillment. So these are all things that all support why we are the clear option. You almost need to imagine that you have your prospect and then you have their destination, and you want to cut off every other bridge so that you are the only one that they genuinely feel like this is the best use of my money, capital, time, whatever it is that they're investing with you. It should be like a no-brainer. So in this case, our guarantee not only served us in fortifying our moat, like we just talked about, but it directly removed the volatility in our sales process by addressing and pre-handling our biggest objection. And so all this without having to spend hours training or recruiting the best talent in the space. So because this offer was brand new, like we had to come up with all this, think through all of it, come up with the pillars, all that kind of stuff. We couldn't afford the best sales reps. And so what I mean by that is there's no OTE to backdate to pull and poach the best sales team from. And so we had to build the offer in a way where that wasn't our strength. Our marketing was. And that's why all this is super important. But when you can do both, and now that we have 6-figure months behind us, we can actually go bring on better sales talent. And in that case, because the marketing is so good, that just means people who are going to do the dials and do the KPI. But it just makes everyone's life easier. But when you get both to an S tier level, then you're going to make a lot of money. So anyways, going to the funnels that we've we use for both of these. So we use the webinar funnel and a call funnel from organic, webinar funnel from cold. And so we've used webinar for cold and warm. I'll explain what I mean here. But in the last 4 days, we did, not last 4 days, but from our last webinar, we did 35K in 4 days. And here's kind of the structure of that funnel. I'm not going to go really, really in depth into the creatives you need to run. I can make a video on that. Just, I don't know, leave a comment or text me or DM me, and I can do all that. But this is just kind of overview what needs to happen from registration to the actual webinar. So register page, obviously, you can look at best practices for that. Again, just DM me if you have any questions that are specific. I kind of want to go over big picture stuff here. Then you have your SMS, you have your email, and your WhatsApp. We did a couple cool things here, which are super important. We do some cool stuff when someone registers, like we dial them previously. And so no one's really doing that right now, but that's something that we were struggling with show rate and connection after webinar. We troubleshooted it, and it's been working really, really well. So let me know if you have any questions on that. I don't want to go too granular here. But again, email, you have all the cadences here if you want to actually like pause and look at this. But good metrics here is like if you had like a 20%, 25% show rate on cold, you're green. And then if you have your retention on your presentation around 80%, we try to aim for like 90%, then you're also green. And then past the actual event, you're segmenting into people who no-show for a replay funnel, showed but didn't make it to the pitch, and then saw the pitch but didn't buy. So you have 3 different segments, and you dial accordingly, and you have email sequences according to. But the biggest thing here is who you attract will always be the bottleneck. So just like AOV is a huge bottleneck for cold, like how much each customer is worth to you up front, your quality of customer and who you speak to is always going to be the bottleneck. Even AOV is a symptom of who you're talking to. And so we've had to pivot a couple times when it comes to how do we talk to the most qualified and the best client, and also the person who takes the least convincing. So if you introduce someone to a model, you have to convince them of so much more than someone who's already convinced on TikTok Shop, and you need to educate them on why you're the best option. But if you take someone from complete zero, unaware, to product aware and convinced, that's a lot of work. You want to kind of find the balance of who's the most qualified and who also has the least amount of beliefs that I need to go shift for them, who's the closest to the sale. And so who you track will always be the bottleneck. Again, from cold, you might be pulling a really unqualified audience from organic and then need to reshape the entire offer from cold. It's always something, a case to consider, especially when someone being in market, like for example, if you have an opportunity and let's just say you have reselling and you like want to talk to a reselling audience that's already in market. Well, people doing reselling doesn't necessarily mean that they're qualified in the first place. So you can't necessarily make all your ads about your method to resell, because people who are looking into that actively might not necessarily be the most qualified person that you'd want to pay for when it comes to your cold traffic. You might want to introduce someone who's a little bit more sophisticated, a little higher, like deeper pockets, and introduce them to the opportunity. And you might want to choose someone who already has an inclination for the type of risk. For example, like you might want to talk to someone who's in blue collar and they want to get out of that opportunity to go into this, and they want to do something that has somewhat of time freedom. And so you introduce them to the idea of reselling because you're not obviously doing manual labor anymore. Whatever it is, you can leverage. Second thing is your webinar show system will only work as well as the incentives you give leads to take each action. And so this applies for your call funnel as well. If you don't give people a good enough reason to show up, to consume the WhatsApp sequences, to consume the email, the SMS, even take the next step on your pre-call page, then they're not going to do it, especially on cold. And you can't do the bullshit like 12 spots left, like first come, first serve, because they don't care. You haven't convinced them of your unique selling proposition to that point where they actually give a shit about your urgency or your fake spots. And so that's where real marketers just actually go and crush on cold. The other ones just don't. But you need to have highly believable reasons for them to take the next step. For example, the way we frame our confirmation videos is, hey, we've laid out everything on this page so you can do the most due diligence on us as possible, and so you know whether the call is worth your time or not. The last thing I want to do is waste your time and my team's time. So this page is not set up so that you can watch a bunch of our content. It's set up so that you know whether or not the call you're about to spend 60 minutes on is worth your time. And that's something like, okay, I don't want to show up to a call, waste all my time. Let me just get all the information ahead of time. And then that way you can structure it in a way where it's the most convincing, and you also kind of deter people who shouldn't be on your calendar in the first place. So anyways, please give them incentives to take actions. For example, when they join a WhatsApp from our lander, when they register, we give them a lead magnet. When we call them and dial them to get them into our WhatsApp, if they haven't joined already, we're telling them about the freebies in there. We have them respond yes. First, like we just incentivize things for every step. Just like be super unselfish. That way, when you get to the ask on the webinar, you've given them so much and they've consumed so much that it's like kind of a no-brainer. They might as well hear you out. So anyway, third, Claude or ChatGPT will burn your ad spend. Most people in our space don't use ChatGPT anymore for copy, but Claude genuinely fucking sucks. This shit's ass. Unless you do some, like, you have a JSON file and you actually know what you're doing. We've pretty much had to rewrite all of our ad scripts on Claude from Claude because we were getting phrases like flips the switch or whatever it is. Like they do some corny generic stuff. But Claude will not be as specific as you will be as a copywriter. And your ability to take what Claude gives you as a starting point and then actually go and rewrite to the highest level of specificity, especially because on cold, you don't care about the cool organic stuff where you can like increase retention. Like you just want to make the most specific piece of content that you will pay to get the people that actually care about it to convert. Because if you make something super brain rot and it's high retention, you're going to get someone who just scrolls and might register, forget about it, doesn't really care. As opposed to if you're talking to someone who's an investor, that's a much more naturally boring piece of content. And that's fine. But you don't want to like Claude go and like make these lines that are so corny. I can genuinely tell. I have so many people that even I'm friends with that I see their reels and I can tell Claude wrote it. I can tell. And it's because humans don't write that way. And I don't care what you do to prompt it. I don't care what you do to feed it context. Just sit down and actually write. Just write because it will give you an edge. Because all ads right now are Claude. I can tell they're all Claude. But the ones and the guys that I know who we're personally even learning from right now, they're huge on like, if it's a presentation to convert, like actually write it out. Same thing with ad creatives. Anyways, lifetime budgets over daily budgets. This is something for media buying. Actually helped me a lot. I know Scott Kelly preaches this. We used daily budgets for a long time. Our CPL just shot to the roof because we were doing 4-day campaigns and adding new creatives every time. And it just was like, it was not consistent. But lifetime budgets will actually pick and choose its spots when it's the most profitable to spend that ad spend. But you can give it a start and an end date so you actually can spend your entire allocated spend for that event, just something small. A good portion of our leads have converted from paid, have attended or registered for 2 to 3 live classes. So obviously webinars are the main conversion mechanism because you can control consumption. But even webinars, like people are converting off like 2 to 3 events. So it's not rare. I would auto enroll for every, like for example, if they enroll on a Sunday, I'd auto enroll for the Wednesday or run more pop-up events. And do not be afraid to send text blasts out and email blasts out every like 2 to 3 webinars, because we've seen it actually make a really reasonable amount of cash. Like it was actually worth it. So anyways, Sunday, 4 p.m. EST, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7 p.m. EST are the best times. I just kind of noted down like the biggest things that we've learned that aren't everywhere, because I think that's the most valuable. And then obviously you have our cadence that we do here. But Encore and pop-ups are always great. So for example, like you actually run an event on a Tuesday and then you just do another one on a Wednesday with the same lead, so you can squeeze them more out of the same ad spend. That's always great. And I would say biggest thing, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit here with the pre-call process and our entire sales process, but make sure you're having people send selfie videos, your closers, as soon as they jump in the group chat with the pre-call group chat. So anyways, this is our entire kind of lay of the land. I like to hear you can kind of just like read it. And then here's a couple of things that we were told, and I'm just learning now that we're doing a lot higher frequency of these. So anyways, call funnel, I'm not going to let a call funnel for you. If you're watching this, you probably know what it is, but VSL Typeform on the same page. I'm just going to give you best practices here. Calendly embedded it into the Typeform. If you aren't using iClose, very important. iClose is great too. You can do credit check on that as well. Dial within 2 minutes, so FaceTime audio from your personal. If they don't pick up, that's something no one does, but it's very important. Same day or next day booking window. Most people don't even check this. They just like set it up when they first do the build out, and they don't even check it. This goes same for webinars. And then on your Calendly, include a description. So when you have the setup of the event, include a description with your Instagram username in case a lead needs a custom time slot. Also include a link to case studies on the Calendly descriptions. For example, what I had typically do is on a Calendly I'll just say something like, if you're on the fence and you're not sure if this is the right move for you to take this call or your free strategy session, here's a link to all of our case studies, recent wins, or link a client interview, or I'll literally list it out and I'll be like, John, 3 to 60K a month, YouTube link. Jake, 45 to 100K a month, YouTube link. That's just random names. But I have the testimonials listed out in their long form right next to the scheduler, so they can't go anywhere, and they have my Instagram if they can't find a slot. But yeah, anyways, quick takeaway before we go into pre-call. Meet people on the platform. So pivot from WhatsApp group to Facebook groups helped us a ton. So we actually were using Facebook or WhatsApp groups originally, and our take rate was dog shit. And then we realized, hey, a lot of our leads are coming from Facebook. A lot of leads are coming from Facebook. Let's just switch it to a Facebook group. Shout out Stefan. Worked really, really well. Very, very, very well. And then even to second that point, whatever platform that we're doing the affiliate on, we're doing lives in that platform to bring more applications in. So just meet people on platform. If you have a very Instagram heavy offer, make sure you're doing the right DM setting practices, your pre-call through IG, have offers that are from profile ads where we're essentially just doing the pre-call group chats in Instagram. So there's a lot of things you can do, but just make it as seamless as possible and make it congruent and meet people on platform. It's just helped us a ton. So anyways, pre-call page, fun stuff. This is super important. This is the most important asset in your funnel. It's what they see before they speak to your sales team. Confirmation video. Top video on the page, highly believable reason to binge the pre-call page. So in this video, you want to do two things. You want to build massive urgency, so why any of this is important now, give them highly believable reasons. Jeremy Haynes talks about that a lot, but essentially, if you have a real estate opportunity, talk about the laws and legislation around that opportunity, why it won't be there for a really long time. Use actual data. For example, we have an AI offer right now, and in our urgency video, we're talking about things like, hey, these are the stats of people leaving their jobs to do something in AI, quitting. These are the stats of people who are getting fired because of AI, and this is the amount of people that actually take the next step outside of their cloud subscription and go do something with it. There's a very huge gap in the supply and demand of the two, and so you can kind of just build these really believable reasons on why this opportunity is important right now, and then also importantly, give them a really good reason to watch the pre-call page. I kind of said it above there earlier in this video, but that's what we do. And it just helps with the binging of it. It's cool to have this stuff, but no one cares to watch it, which is why everyone's like, oh my God, our show rates are shit or our close rates are shit, and we have every best practice in place. It's probably because your confirmation video doesn't give them a valid enough reason to watch any of the stuff that you listed out for them to watch. So the second video on that page is a program overview. So we call it a pre-call VSL. And I say program overview on the funnel because it's the shiniest thing. They're like, oh, I want to hop on the call to learn the program. I might as well just do it right here, save my time. In that program overview, we are leading with the core outcomes. So on the very top, it's how we'll help you build whatever it is, agency in 90 days, up to 10, 20, 30K a month. Whatever it is, the core outcome, you're leading with that in the program overview on the gamma. And then you're going average client expected timeline, raw client survey results, stories from our students. Then you want to go into some sections about selling the actual opportunity, why this opportunity is different than anything they've seen before, any other ads they're consuming, our offer, step-by-step how it works, what's it look like on the inside, so actual screenshots, and expected ROI, our guarantee explained, FAQ, you can read all this. But these are everything that I would want someone to consume before speaking to me as a sales rep. I'm just packing it all into one, and I'm putting it right there as a second page in the video. So as soon as they get hit with this urgency, they're going right to the program overview. So in case they don't make it to any of the other videos on this page, they're getting pretty much everything all in one. The third video is FAQs. The third section on that page are FAQ videos. Most people just have the 50-second ones. I would not recommend that. I would actually recommend that they're not going to watch all of them. They're going to watch the one that's most relevant to them. So actually spend time writing it, make it almost like a mini VSL on that belief and shifting it, and then weave in student client results, all that kind of stuff. So don't write them 60-second ones that don't mean anything. Then you have your fourth section, which is due diligence videos. So your dispute rate, your trust pilot, things that are just giving them more security as if they were going to go with you guys. Why should they trust you? Why should they give you their money? And what have other people said from the most reputable places? I would adjust this to your audience. Dispute rate, like your actual payment processor, is always a good one. Trustpilot's always a good one, but even things like Reddit and stuff, like, is your audience going to look up Reddit? Like, just meet them where they are, have them do due diligence on you and actually walk them through that. Then you have an infinite scroll of win screenshots, always important, nice to have there. So anyways, keynotes here. If you're having a low pickup rate, so after they go through the pre-call page, you can try including your A2P phone number into the headline. So you can actually say, look out for a call from this number. If you're getting leads showing up without watching any of this, then your setter needs to either frame it better, so it's more in their benefit, like frame it as more in their interest, or you need to fix your confirmation video, this video up here. This is super, super important. And then last thing is, if you upload your program overview to YouTube Unlisted, I always like to take this video here because it's the most important one they should watch. Take it from Wistia, wherever you're hosting it, and then actually put it on YouTube Unlisted with the offer owner's actual channel, and that way your setters can put it in the pre-call group chats along with the relevant student long-form student interview to send in the pre-call group chat. So you're having two places where they can go watch this video. I just want them to watch this. It's the most important piece of content, and it's pretty much holistically what they need to know. So let's get into sales process. Let me open this up real quick. So this is like a big diagram here. So obviously you have your VSL page, your webinar, these all go to application or a booked call. We have text if they drop off, if they're a DQ, email sequences as well. And then from the thank you page, three things kind of kick off. So we have, on this offer specifically, it's iClose, email. iClose is a scheduler. Email obviously goes off no matter what. We have our confirmation email, and then a couple of emails that go between the call. And then we have our iClosed actual software, which has its text and its reminders. So that's the robot number. Just keep in mind that's the actual robot number. They're not going to respond to that. But then you have your personal cell. So we use SendBlue, or if you're using A2P on GHL, whatever it is, we have an automated text that goes out confirming the call. We double dial them instantly. And then we have a couple of things that happen. So on that triage call, biggest thing here is you confirm time in acquired environment, that they're going to be in acquired environment. Second thing is you actually get gap. Gap is the number one thing that is missing on every set call that leads to a no-show. So you need to paint a big enough gap between where they are now and where they want to go, because it's why they should care in the first place about solving that problem. If they feel like there's no problem to be solved, there's no gap between them and their dream life, and the urgency around it, they're not going to care in the first place. Pitching the call as if you're still wanting to just overflow them with value. And so most setters, especially from cold or coming from organic, they'll be used to having this authoritative frame, like we were very selective, like you can't really get in unless I let you go to the call, like all this bullshit that people get away with when they have a personal brand. That does not work on cold. They need to be like almost like receptionists. That sounds bad, but they need to be helpful above everything. They need to give them the information they want. They need to give them all the pre-call material they want, all the due diligence that you can help them do. And they need to almost frame the call as it's still like a strategy call. They're still going to get the game plan from A through Z, regardless if they go with us or not. And just need to frame it as helpful and valuable to them. They need to know why they should show up and what's going to be about, and set expectations in the right way. So that kind of goes into 4, which is no sales breath. You do not have this authority frame. You're there to just make sure they have everything they need before the call. Your opening should be something like, hey, want to make sure you have everything between now and your call. While I have you here, kind of what was behind you even wanting to jump on a call in the first place? Right? Like you just are curious above everything. You're not having some sales breath. So anyways, group chat's made after that phone call. On this phone call, they're getting them in the group chat, confirming the time, and actually confirming that they can see the pre-call resources and can click on them and the links work. Then setter sends a pre-call VSL that's unlisted that we just talked about, and then your relevant testimonial. Then a closer drops a selfie video or a Loom video asking thoughts on assets as well. And then morning of, the setter confirms that they have the Zoom link. Apparently I can't spell confirm, but don't do some vague bump like, for example, like, hey, dude, still good for the time? Like, they'd have no urgency to respond to that. If you ask them something like, hey, want to make sure you the Zoom link before or for tonight's call, do you have that on your end? And they can answer and just say yes or no. So if they confirm, they're confirmed. They have a call outcome. If they do not answer, then we double dial them, and then we send them certain texts we have in our SOP. But obviously, you have taken no-show, canceled, no-show, and cancel an email sequence and an SMS, and then reschedule just goes to an SMS because it's just how their new time allotted. And then if they don't close, we have book a meeting from a meeting, spam fam, and then we have alert DM setter if applicable. So if they come from IG, we can hit them over from the offer owner. Then we send over a case study that overcomes limiting beliefs. Best if it comes from the actual offer owner, and then we have a no-close sequence, and we mark for follow-up. But essentially, you have this entire workflow goes off, your setter, your closer. You have iClosed, that is your schedule at Calendly, just sending over these just automated reminders. So there's a robot number that's clearly different than the actual personal cell. And then you have your email. Letting robots be robots is something that a 7-figure, or I think it's 8-figure actually, the OG, like biggest info guy, his CEO, I had the pleasure of learning from, and my favorite line he's by far said is, let robots be robots and let people be people. And so make sure that the prospect knows the difference between Calendly and your iClosed and your company number versus someone's personal cell, and give them a believable reason to do so. That's why I like keeping on the text reminders that are robots and then texting them from personal. So anyways, that's our sales process. Sales management, which is a beast within itself. There are 2 key metrics that are actually important when it comes to assessing your team. And so I just had a call with another sales manager that I respect heavily. Shout out Logan. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things he shared with me that are changing the way that I run the teams, and then the metrics that we're tracking now as opposed to before. So the 2 key metrics that we're tracking are what's your cost per scheduled call, and then what's your cash per scheduled call. This is raw, by the way. Whenever anyone says this on videos, they never specify, okay, cool, is that after cancels, before no-shows, after no-shows? This is just scheduled. So what are we paying per scheduled call, and then what is our cash per scheduled call? And that's going to just, obviously that's your ROAS, but you can track this individually to each closer. And so you can see which closer is actually the most profitable, because close and show rate are just vanity. I don't know why I said that weird, but these will tell you what you need to know about output from each rep. And so instead of looking at any other lagging indicator other than, are they profitable on every call you put on their calendar, and by how much? That's the most important thing. And then offers per day per closer is also incredibly important. Now, here are the metrics that we track from paid and organic. We separate both of them. You have cash per book call. It's obviously just paid. Cost per book call, again, just paid. Cost per qualified booked call. And so what I mean by this is when you offer someone. So when a closer offers someone on a sales call, that person is qualified or offered. So what's your cost per qualified booked call? Your raw show rate, your raw close rate on taken, your show rate on confirmed calls. So this will allow you to double book if these are very low. So I was watching a Cole Gordon podcast just recently, but I was like, dude, how do they double book? There must be so many people that just like get pissed off. They don't actually speak to the person they expected to speak to. But if you can track your show rate on people that confirm within 5 minutes versus people that don't, you can double book strategically. So if someone doesn't confirm within 5 minutes, then you know that, hey, like their show rate is 15% as opposed to people that do are like 50. And so you can make those judgments. But it's important to know. Cancel rate, so how many calls are being canceled from scheduled. Separate canceled by team and canceled by prospects in 2 different buckets. So for example, if my team cancels someone, that should be noted as opposed to if a prospect cancels themselves. Then you have DQ rate, so how many calls are unqualified from scheduled. You have offer rate, calls pitched divided by calls taken. Your offer rate to close rate, your offer to close rate, your offers per day per closer, and then AOV. AOV is very, very, very important. This will be your bottleneck going into paid. If you are an operator and you get paid off if you get paid off profit share, I would also be wary. I would track your AOV, not necessarily on your financed totals. So for example, if you finance someone on a Clarity or Split at 5.5K, I would just mark that as like 4.6 cash, whatever it is your percent is. Again, that's super subjective, but that's important because it's talking about your profit. But these are a couple of things that Logan kind of bestowed upon me. I want to just share. Track data from 3 different places, so don't trust reps. Source data from EODs, CRM, and manual VA. We're about to do all this right now, so we just do it through EODs and CRM right now. I don't have anyone going through it, just like checking things back and forth, and then also our dashboard doesn't separate the 2. But incorrect data will put you out of business, so super important. Second thing is to track speed to lead by having setters claim with emoji, then reply in thread when calling. So usually we just have them claim with an emoji, but you can actually have them type in the thread and reply to the message in your actual automation. And you can actually have them type when they're dialing. That way you can check speed to lead, and your VA can do that, or you can cross-check with the CRM as well. So you have a timestamp when they claim it and a timestamp when they're dialing. 3, the standards you keep for your sales reps will directly reflect on the success of that client account. So things like closers, full cycling, hitting outbound when they're not on call, setters hitting the dial KPI super consistently, tracking and being extremely accountable and taking complete ownership of their numbers. All of these things take so much energy from whoever's managing the sales team, but it is so crucial that especially when you go into paid, There are on organic, you're not paying for any lead, and so if something slips through the cracks, like no one really cares. But on paid, it will make the difference between a 3.5 and a 4.5 ROAS, and it will cost your client money. Like they'll be pissed if you're not someone who can actually operate a sales team the right way, have all the numbers ready at hand all the time, know the numbers in the back of your head, and actively work on things and know what to actively work on. So having high standards for your closers, your setters will give you the best data to operate on. You're squeezing the most cash out of everything, and it'll make your life much easier. Like we have some amazing sales team members on this offer specifically too as well, and they're always just like hunting for cash. Like we have to pull them back sometimes because they're just doing so much to bring cash in the door, which is where you always want to be. And it's just about building a good culture, making sure they know that you actually care about them on a deeper level than a sales rep. And one thing we always emphasize is like, go do something for yourself today. Like go to the gym, go take a run, whatever it is. Last thing is, not the last thing, but the fourth thing is reps aren't buying the OT, they're buying you. And so they are buying the perceived likelihood that you can take the offer to where it is that you say you can't. Like, this is why people need to invest in consulting more than they do, because your skill set is so much more important than you think. People depend on your skill set to assess bottlenecks, fix things, take action on things, because it's their paycheck at the end of every month. Like if your team cannot trust you to take care of them, then they're not going to be someone who's going to be jumping to get you more cash at the door. And so, especially when you are launching out from scratch, reps are not buying the OTE. It's important that you build a reputation in the space, that reps know, okay, this guy's valid. Like he actually knows what he's doing. The offer is in good hands. I trust him long term. Let's go build. Like that is so much more invaluable than any OTE that you can lie about on a job board with all these shitty sales programs. Fifth is your setters will throttle the offer. So we've had to test different team members repeatedly throughout this entire process. The team we have right now, I'm super happy with. Like your setters, them not dialing, especially on cold, will completely fuck you, because you might be feeling like, hey, nothing's working right now, but it's because your setters are dialing 25 people in a day instead of 75 like they're supposed to, or 100 like they're supposed to, right? If you simply 3-4 times the output of the people you talk to every day, like that's where your booked calls are coming from. That's where your booked calls are lacking, because your team isn't talking to enough people every day, and they can get away with it on organic because no one's paying for that traffic, and that those people already know, like, and trust the person. But paid leads need to be hit, and they need to be almost white glove serviced, especially if you're going over a sophisticated audience. So anyways, your setters will throttle the offer. It's the first touch point, and your first touch point doesn't matter when it's a big viral personal brand, but when it's cold traffic and they care about the actual offer, then your setters are the first touch point, and they will bottleneck the entire offer if you don't get it right. So anyways, last thing here. It's almost always a marketing issue, but you cannot jump there until you've ruled out sales. So for me, I've always, just in the last 2 years, I've always erred on the side that if anything's going kind of wrong within an offer, it's always something macro. It's never because this small little thing didn't happen on a sales process, or we need tracking on this better. It's always something macro. Your offer isn't right, your messaging is cooked, or your sales process, like speed to lead, is just like 10, 15, 20 minutes long. It's always something macro. It's never something small. And so it is almost always a marketing issue. It's almost always the quality of people you pour into top of the funnel. But you can't jump in there until you've ruled out sales. So the important part of this is like not that this will always and like be the main constraint every time. It's not always a sales problem. It likely isn't, but you need to know the data here so that you can actually assess, okay, I'm ruling this entire department out and I'm going to focus on the messaging. But that being said, I will be the first one to say, whenever you talk to a higher qualified buyer, when you talk to higher quality prospects and leads in your messaging, your entire sales process will be able to work at half the capacity and make you the same amount of money, because the people you bring in and the people you talk to are going to decide how much money you make. It's just point blank. Higher AOV, the higher your ticket prices can be, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, our huddle schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday team meetings, and then we have this tracker I want to give to you. Shout out sales.io. They have a tracker here that I use. We obviously have our EODs, but I like to have it on a sheet as well because it's just good accountability for the closer. I can check it super easily instead of going into our dashboard or Looker dashboard, and then like if something is off, then I have to go and calculate everything. I can just see it here, and they can mark showed qualified 1, and it will calculate all their stats above here, and they will also count their objections. So shout out sales.io. This is what I use, and it's been awesome. Shout out JJ. I've just been blessed to have a lot of relationships that I like really treasure because there's people that teach me a lot and know a lot more than me. Jay is one of those people, as well as other people that I mentioned in this video. But anyways, that being said, this is kind of everything A to Z, how we broke down our sales management, how we did our sales process, how we set up all of our funnels, our best practices for our webinars, some key takeaways that we've learned, and then most importantly, how I structure and how we think through the marketing and the offer and the messaging and the guarantee and actually building our moat. These are all the things that actually matter. Like I said, it's always a marketing problem. It's likely never a sales problem. Even though I'm a sales guy, it's always who are you talking to? Who is getting on the phone? That is, at the end of the day, most times going to be your bottleneck. So these two are the most important, so we spent most time there. But again, you have everything else here you need to go crush it. Anything more nuanced, just DM me. I'm happy to just give advice or even just like send a couple voice notes back. With that being said, if you're an off-roader and you're doing between 15 and 100K a month and you want to tack on the next couple 6 figures a month or hit your first 6 figures a month, just go to salesmachines.io or just DM me. If you're an operator and you have some questions based on your client, shoot me a quick context over DM. I'm happy to shoot a couple voice notes back. But regardless, any other questions, just shoot me a DM. I'm happy to help.